Good evening.
Good evening.
I keep putting this off because
Can you mention how good my flapjacks were?
your flapjacks were awesome. I keep putting this off because I feel there's so much to talk about with this pair of episodes. And so we watched it last night. Humphrey's seen it before. Absolutely loved it. Was proper hyped. Winnie, bless her. Oh my goodness. We got to the end. Spoilers, you know what happens at the end. And she was in floods. Absolute floods.
It is very nice.
Well, let's start with that then. So, this is almost, I think, more important I know that sounds ridiculous, in terms of the overall story, certainly of the revival, but it's all the same programme, isn't it, than The Regeneration, 1 season ago. Because, with hindsight, how utterly essential is Rose Tyler to this programme? How, just in terms of relaunching this show, Billie Piper, Rose Tyler, and the extended Tyler family, because don't forget, this isn't just saying goodbye, well, theoretically saying goodbye to Rose, but it's saying goodbye to Jackie and Mickey and Pete. It's just absolutely massive. And it lays it on thick. If one was being very unkind to this episode, it really, really doesn't leave any surprise in that regard. And I think this will crop up again. RTD does annoy with us. Somebody will die. Somebody will die in Well, she doesn't. She didn't die. Okay? You
I
think
you're wrong.
you can spin it whatever way you want, but she doesn't die, and you know that because she's telling you that she died. So there we go.
But darling, the point isn't what happened.
Yes.
It's how you got there.
This is true. It is not the destination, it is the journey. And so anyway, Billie Piper, what a companion. Are we talking top 3 companions ever?
For me, definitely.
Yeah.
She's my favourite companion of New Who.
Yeah. So I think if we're going to do rankings, we always do, I think we're saying Sarah Jane, Ace and Rose at this stage, with I presume, a strong vote for Tegan over there.
Well, I love Tegan, yes, but I'm not prepared to do your boysy lists of top favourite. Otherwise, I'll do my top favourite boyfriends and top favourite husbands.
Enough of this nonsense.
Exactly.
I think I said in the Love of Monsters video that one of the things about the revival of the series is it gave RTD in particular, but we shall see with Moffat and other writers, the opportunity to write those sorts of stories that fans, particularly those creative fans unlike myself, could have sitting in their heads. You know what I mean? Those stories that were perhaps just the next step beyond what classic Who was going to do. And they would have got there, obviously, if they carried on, Cartmel and all that. But so we managed to get the, what if the Doctor's not there story. Fantastic. What happens to those people who are left behind story. Fantastic. This story, and I hadn't even realised when I said that, does something that Doctor Who fans had been pondering forever. And if I had the time, which I genuinely don't because I'm a seriously busy man, I'd go over to my shelves and find out the really old copy of Doctor Who magazine, on the cover of which Andrew Skilter had drawn a mighty war between the Daleks and the Cybermen. Now, I remember watching this the first time, and tell me if I'm wrong, comments down below and all that. I don't think we knew the Daleks were in it. Can you remember that, Lib? Did we know? We knew the Cybermen were in it, obviously. That is.
No, we didn't, because I can remember going,
Oh my gosh.
mic drop.
And was that the one that you saw? Because my personal story about this episode is it's one of the few Doctor Who stories that Elizabeth saw before me. Because I was playing a gig in Leeds, and was it episode 1 or episode 2? Episode 1. So you knew the Daleks were in it before I did.
I
And
wouldn't have watched episode 2 of that.
with hindsight, it is so telegraphed. The whole colour, and this is one of the things I love so much about when New Who gets it right, it's class. And yes, it's drawn on thick, but all the chrome and the glass and the clean lines and everything and the bright lights of upstairs in Torchwood Tower is clearly evoking Cybermen. And then downstairs in the basement, it's all that sort of brass muted metal colours, and that's going to be Daleks. And that combination of Daleks versus Cybermen is just for the fans, let alone everybody else, who must have obviously went, ah, but you just went, oh my gosh, how long have we been waiting to see this moment on television? And I have to say, for the most part, Daleks versus Cybermen doesn't disappoint. There's some quite amusing dialogue, which just stretches a little bit at what I think Daleks and Cybermen talk like in every other episode. But there's that moment where a Dalek lets on that he's called a Dalek, and the Cyberman's like, you just told me you called a Dalek? No. And it's a little bit incredulous. But that's fine, because this is an almighty smorgasbord mishmash of Dalek versus Cybermen goodness, and as a result, we will forgive it moments like that, because honestly, Daleks versus Cybermen is something that Doctor Who fandom had wanted to see since 1966, probably, and as a result, we got it here, and what a gift. What a ridiculous gift we get with all that. Absolutely brilliant. I will say, though, 4 Daleks can take on flipping 20 million Cybermen as far as I'm concerned. There is no competition between the two. And I think for the programme to even suggest there is just ludicrous. But there we go. We get the whole Torchwood thing dropping in these 2 episodes. Let's be perfectly honest. Either that has been exceptionally diluted with what becomes of Torchwood and what we know about that, and therefore that moment isn't quite as pronounced, or probably more to the point, it's no Bad Wolf, is it? I mean, the lead up to Torchwood wasn't anywhere near as imagination grabbing as Bad Wolf was in Series 1, which was a bit of alchemy, that we got lucky with that. It's very nice to have it drop in here, but it doesn't quite stick, and that's frustrating. Nod to Liv, though, who a couple of episodes ago did notice Saxton being referenced in a newspaper. So
Is it Saxton or Saxon?
it was... Well, it's Mr. Saxon, and it stands for... I can't remember what it stands for, what it anagram was.
Because you said Saxton.
Is it
I can't
Saxon?
remember if his name's Saxon or Saxton.
He's on his way anyway, and I can't wait for that. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. Whatever that means, because you don't know, etc. There's some amazing bits with Jackie in this story. There are some absolutely phenomenal bits with Jackie.
She's hilarious.
Not only is she hilarious...
What's her name?
Camille Cowdery, I think. And there's that bit, and it is my quintessential Jackie moment, because whenever you've got a human, a normal like us, in a Doctor Who story, you're waiting to see how involvement with the Doctor raises their game. I think that's one of the things we look to in our companions and maybe companions, whatever else like that. There's that moment where Yvonne Harmon, is that her name? I think so. Says, right, we're going to do the thing anyway, and tells her, don't do it. And she's like, we're going to do the thing anyway. Don't do it. We're going to do the thing anyway. All right, do it then. And he sits in his chair, and Jackie comes and stands next to him, and it's like, you could blink, and it's Rose stood next to him. Like, she suddenly, in that moment, goes, I'm a companion now. Like, genuinely, it's tangible. It's so brilliant. And the bits with Pete and she's just class. And honestly, considering she could have just been this this very two-dimensional comedy figure, Jackie Tyler becomes one of the sort of recurring guest star, that's the phrase I'm looking for, highlights of Doctor Who. Genuinely, what a joyous presence on screen she becomes.
I've got an issue, though.
Hit me.
At the end, when Rose is choosing the Doctor, basically, a life with the Doctor over the life with her mum.
Yeah.
I find that really heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well,
I can understand the idea of having a life full of possibilities and an exciting life, and you only have one life. You should do what you want to do, etc., etc. But the thought of doing that cognizantly, knowing, choosing to not have your mom who gave you everything, that just doesn't sit right.
So that ties into something that I wanted to say, which is this. RTD is setting himself up for failure in this episode. And he's not just setting himself up for failure, sets Moff up for failure. We'll see what happens with Chibnall. But this notion of, we can't ever leave the Doctor. Now, that hasn't been a companion-y thing to this extent ever. But with this departure of a companion, suddenly leaving the Doctor becomes potentially the most traumatic thing in your entire life, right? As Lib has said, even never seeing your mum again is better than leaving the Doctor. And
that's your mum. So my mum, no, it's not.
Love your mum. Not that you watch these, but anyway. But if that is the case here with Rose, and let's put it like, oh, I'm going to travel on my own at the end. Will you chuff? You can have a new mate within 5 minutes, and he does. But there we go. But if every time you've got to up the ante of those goodbyes, it just gets absolutely ludicrous, right? And honestly, one of the best companions departures, but we don't know this, is Yaz when she leaves because she knows that Jodie's regenerating. Because it's like, that's a completely logical reason why you would choose to leave the Doctor. And, you know, Moffat and RTD tie themselves up in knots after this, just trying to think of more elaborate reasons why you would choose to ever leave the Doctor. I think it starts here, and it's not a good thing for Doctor Who. But it works here, for the most part. With the exception of it being, you know, just, it's a little bit much, isn't it? But there we go. Celebrate. Mickey's back. What's up?
Well, I need to do a quick disclaimer before the end of your video to say that if your mum ever did watch this,
I know.
really
I know. Stop it. Stop it. Mickey's back. I find it a little bit hard to buy the development of Mickey's character from nerd who gets eaten by a bin to defending the Earth. But I think Noel Clarke does as well as he can with it. It's just a bit of a steep character development here. To be fair, it's the same sort of character development I'm supposed to buy with sort of Harriet Jones, isn't it? Oh, I'm this bumbling backbench MP. I will mess up the Sycorax. And it's just a bit fierce for me. But I really enjoy seeing him. I love the relationship he's got with Tennant. I love the fact that the relationship with Rose is nuanced. Do you know what I mean? I can buy into it, even though it's complicated, but then again, Doctor Who does complicated relationships these days. Slight praise, but nice to see Pete back as well. That whole resolution of that story works really, really well for me. The story overall, absolutely brilliant. Like, genuinely, I'm sure we could rip, you know, plot holes in it. You know, I'm going to read the About Time about it or something, and they'll go, really? And there's a void, and they suck, because that's what About Time does, but I love About Time, so they're not that. But in terms of the emotion, that's what you look to for RTD Who, isn't it? In terms of the emotion of it and all that. These ghosts coming back, well, you can I mean, it's ridiculous. We know it's ridiculous. But you can buy into that. You can understand why people are kidding themselves into thinking these ghosts. The whole celebrity cameo things on the TV, that's a trope now that we're, you know, getting increasingly used to with this progress of Doctor Who. And the references to Ghostbusters, you know, of course the return of the Cybermen's great. Who's that character who got the earpiece ripped out? We may see that actress again later, of course. But all that stuff in there. Basically, you know, and all the running around in the second episode, just loved it. Absolutely love it. Genesis Arc, Time War-y stuff, wearing the glasses. Of course, at the heart of it, wearing the glasses is DT. And this is an absolutely stellar performance as DT. And from the highs of whapping about, doing daft things, to the Cybermen, to the Daleks, to saying goodbye to Rose. I mean, if he hadn't cemented his place as, you know, one of your top doctors by this story, you know, this story surely just absolutely rocks that in. Absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, we end on a magnificent cliffhanger. I cannot wait to see the next episode. Right, let's count this at the end of the season. Let's do our quick season overview. Let's see if we can remember them all. So we've got New Earth. I really like New Earth, although I think it gets a little bit of a bad rep. Tooth and Claw. Really like Tooth and Claw. I seem to remember the kids really enjoyed that too. School Reunion. Oh, the return of Sarah Jane Smith. Oh my gosh. Wow, just Canine as well. I mean, that episode is just so gorgeous. Girl in the Fireplace. You know, one of those Doctor Who stories that just transcends the programme. Age of Cybermen, Rise of Steel, Rise of Age, whatever it's called, Steel, Cybermen. Really like that story. Forgotten how much I enjoyed that story. Probably not up to the highest highs of this season, but that's absolutely fine. Idiot's Lantern, yeah, whatever. I can't remember what I said in the video for the Idiot's Lantern. I hope I said nice things about it. Did it do one?
Can't remember.
See, I can't remember. What a forgettable episode, and what a shame that that's the case. And sadly, I think that's a Mark Gatiss trope that we might come across again and again, but there we go. We shall see. Love and Monsters, absolutely brilliant. Love and Monsters. And then it's Rise of Cybermen. No, it's not. No, it's the ones we just watched. Were absolutely amazing. So all but one of these episodes was, at the very least, very good. Another great season. Probably not as strong overall as the first one, but maybe the trimmings help just push this into the stratosphere. You know, we've got everybody established now. We've got this whole character arc. There's some sort of Age of Ultron, Infinity War closing to this season, isn't there? This feels like the proper wrap up of the first 2 seasons, with the departure of Rose, which launches off into the future. What rude health Doctor Who is in at this point, and genuinely, in terms of season closers. I don't know what the general consensus about this is in comparison to Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. But even if this is a little bit more razzmatazz and bells and whistles, I like a bit of razzmatazz and bells and whistles in my Doctor Who sometimes. So absolutely banging. Anything else to chip in, madam?
No.
Marvellous. Farewell. Bye-bye.